We are back. It is another edition of Colts Corner with myself, Kevin Bowen, in a snowy and cold Indianapolis. I guess what are we? Senior Bowl week, Eddie? Senior Bowl week, then Pro Bowl week, then Super Bowl week?
I think so,
I guess Pro Bowl and Super Bowl now is the same week, right?
Yeah.
And we do the Pro Bowl like Thursday of Super Bowl week. So yeah, we will chat about all of that. February we'll get into the evaluations. Eddie, kind of on the horizon, I still envision a Sauce Gardner-related pod. That trade, I envision a Anthony Richardson-related pod. I'd like to get into the evaluations specifically with Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, and we do that annually. What's been good, what's been bad, et cetera, et cetera. And then, man, if you look at it, we're a month away from the Combine.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, it is pretty wild.
We saw that news last Friday. Chris Gall, unbelievable job with Visit Indy, and Pat McAfee making that announcement. McAfee getting the leadership award here in Indy for what he does for our city, and they have extended the Combine through 2028. No, seven. 2-year extension. From my understanding, Eddie, one of the big goals now coming up at the Combine here in less than a month, because again, it's pretty much been a 1-year deal now for the last couple of years. They've been fighting off, Dallas. They've been fighting off, fighting with
probably Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas for sure. I think a little bit of LA as well. But now the focus, it sounds like, is they want the draft. And from what I understand, the 3 sites that they're going to show the NFL. So the NFL will come here in a month for the Combine. What they want to show the NFL, and again, they haven't really done this yet. Military Park, which for those unfamiliar in Indianapolis, it's just north of downtown. Just, think of it as a massive park area where you could easily put a stage and thousands of people. And it's probably the most downtown located. They would go potentially to the south part of Lucas Oil Stadium, which is the less, populated in buildings and commercial buildings and things like that. North of Lucas Oil is right in the mix of downtown. And then they're also going to look at White River State Park, which is, there's an amphitheater over there that hosts some concerts.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised no Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I thought that might be involved. Now, that is not within walking distance of downtown.
No.
So maybe that is having some influence on it. So we'll see. I mean, I know I literally am a fan of 99% of events and things that Visit Indy does. And I mean, Indiana Sports Corp, and I mean, all of it. I love so much of it. I don't get the appeal of the draft. To me, it's Times Square on New Year's Eve. But I get that people show up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know why. Am I missing something here?
It's a cheaper way for them to see, some of these players in person up close, right?
I mean, I guess, Eddie, but what? You're only seeing 15 players, right? I mean, that's pretty much what the green rooms are nowadays. And then once you get to the second round, there's no players left.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still great crowds on Friday and Saturday of these drafts. So it's amazing. It shows it shows why I have a job, frankly. But, I'm a huge live sporting event person. But that one, I don't really understand. I would argue watching the Combine is more entertaining than watching the draft. Would you rather sit inside of Lucas Oil Stadium and watch the Combine, or would you rather sit outside and listen to people's names get called?
It's a good question.
Like, if I have to pick one or the other, I would rather watch the Combine.
Yeah.
At least you're watching them perform. So yeah, we'll see how all that goes through. Okay. What should we get to? Off-season questions? Is that where we're at right now?
Yes. You posted this on 1075thefan.com. 6 off-season questions facing the 2026 outlook. Number 1 has to start with the quarterback position. And what does Daniel Jones' return to action look like?
By the way, I got sent a link the other day that Daniel Jones is having football camps here in the state. I think I saw Ritter, which is a local high school here right by the Speedway. I think I saw Fort Wayne at Evansville. So does that mean he's back if he's hosting football camps here?
One would assume, right?
Right.
One would assume.
Yeah. Again, this is kind of weird, Eddie, because the public love from both parties seems to be so mutual that it's more of to me, the question is, when does he return to action? This is less about the contractual debate. Obviously, I'm curious what the contract looks like, the guaranteed money, how many years, all that stuff. But for me, the biggest offseason question in regards to Jones is when does he return? And then, of course, the other question I've always said, when does he become Daniel Jones? When does he move and operate like a functional quarterback? I mean, watch some of these playoff games over the weekend, even, Eddie. Like, go to the inclement weather game. Drake May's ability to move versus Jarrett Stidham's ability to move was a huge factor in that game.
Yeah.
Huge factor in that game. And so that's what I think is necessary for Jones to be, whatever, an above average quarterback for you in this offense. So how many starting reps is Riley Leonard getting? All those things. But yeah, for me, Eddie, the biggest question is we're talking December 7th, torn Achilles. September 13th is the first game. So you break that down, that's what? About 9 months? The Colts are trying to attempt something in 9 months that the Pacers have been very adamant that they'll be about 15 months about it, 16 months about it. So I get calendars of the seasons are different for both those franchises, and, the position might not be apples to apples, but again, when does he get cleared, and then when is he starting to move in an effective manner? And unfortunately, he's got injury history that's outside of that. So, yeah, that's my biggest Jones question.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to see if he starts on PUP.
Starts camp?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be, boy, can you imagine if we started the season on PUP? I don't get the impression that they think that's happening at all.
Because that's what, 4 weeks? Or is that 6? I can't remember.
Yeah, but I get the impression they think he's going to be out there for camp, which, I mean, I get in camp he can, red jersey it up, but still.
Yeah. I'd have to do more research into PUP because I totally forget sometimes on that one.
I think it's at least a month, and it might be longer.
Number 2 is how will the Colts maneuver the upcoming draft without a first-round pick?
This is one where Chris Ballard brought this up just organically, Eddie, during a season-ending presser, and apologies if you can hear me fighting the voice a little bit here. Mother Nature's gotten to me a little bit here, but appreciate you sticking with us. We've seen them without a first-round pick really a decent amount in the Ballard era.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it, who are your first-round picks?
Kwity Paye, Latu, Richardson.
And Hooker?
And, yeah.
Yeah. Hooker, Nelson, didn't have one. Kwity, yeah, Richardson, and Warren.
Yeah, and Warren.
Yeah, so, that's a part of this offseason that I think is really just something that you can't lose sight over. Because, Eddie, a lot of those times you mentioned the drafts, they didn't have first-round picks. You had years where you just traded out of round one. 2019, right, was a Montez Sweat with Washington.
Yes.
You traded back, so you still reap some of the benefits. You obviously are not able to do that here when it comes to that. 2018, you also had the
Quentin Nelson, duh. We forgot to name him.
I thought I said him, but maybe I didn't. In that Nelson draft, again, you traded back, and you obviously gained a ton of draft capital by moving back 3 spots. Ironically, Sam Darnold, the guy that the Jets came up to draft there. So, again, how do you operate without the first-round pick and the cap space largely going to the 2 big guys, Jones and Pierce? And we'll get to Pierce here in a second. So, last year you obviously committed that first-round pick to Tyler Warren, and I did this. Have you looked at mock drafts yet, Eddie?
I looked at Daniel Jeremiah's yesterday, 1.0.
As did I. And what I was struck by in the Daniel Jeremiah draft, I forgot that Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson all have a first-round pick in the first 15 picks.
Uh-huh.
He had Reuben Bain going to the Chiefs.
Yep.
And I've seen a mock or two with Jeremiah Love going to the Chiefs. It's just, again, we live in our own Colts bubble. I know the Colts are very optimistic about 2 months, being more the telling card of this past season and more indicative of whatever the Ballard regime, if you want to take it that far. But, what are they saying in Cincy? What are they saying in Baltimore? What are they saying in Kansas City?
Cincinnati needs defense. I can tell you that.
Right. But, Cincinnati, all these teams have quarterbacks that have been at MVP levels or, won MVPs, and they're all getting top 15 picks, So, not that all of them are going to hit, of course, but it's just a reminder about that. So, again, how you go about checking off all the boxes. I keep on coming back to starting defensive end opposite Latu, find a linebacker, what else? If Nick Cross walks, how do you fill that?
Well, you need safety depth anyway.
Sure. If you're done with Michael Pittman Jr., how are you addressing that? Where else? Can you be best player available? Probably not. Almost seems like you got to be defense best player available. Almost seems to be the method you have to have come draft time there. And then again, how much cap space can you create?
Yeah, that'll be I think the biggest question, and interesting to see how Chris Ballard and who's their cap guy?
Mike Bloom.
Yeah.
Nice dude.
Yeah. He'll have to get a little creative.
And he's a Grigson guy, or he was from that era, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? Number 3 on the Colts offseason questions facing the 2026 outlook. Will Alec Pierce be a Colt? I'm surprised this was not number 1 or number 2, but I get the magnitude with Daniel Jones there.
Let's not pay too much attention to the order, to be honest with you, Eddie. I don't know if I ordered them necessarily in that hierarchy. But again, will he be a Colt? To me, it's a little different than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, it was when is he going to return? For Alec Pierce, I think it's more of is he definitely going to be a Colt? Now, that's my assumption. I think the franchise tag obviously can be used here.
Yeah.
But I don't know if on the open market the Colts are going to be competing. Now, they gave, Pittman, I thought, a very respectable deal a few cycles ago. Of course, that was just 3 years, and now you're kind of seeing the brunt of that here as we've reached the end of Pittman's contract. But will Pierce be a Colt? Like, the Colts control this, though, with the tag. This is not, a little different than some other situations of outright free agents or, again, I don't see them tagging Jones at the $46 million number, whatever it is, but that would obviously take the tool away from you. The only tag, Pittman's the only tag since Pat McAfee in 2013, right?
Did they tag Pittman?
Didn't they initially tag him and then got to the long-term deal?
I can't remember. It was so long ago.
I think they initially tagged him and then like a week later they got the long-term deal, which, they have the ability to, get to the long-term deal, all the way up until July when it comes to the franchise tag window and extensions off of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, you are correct. Yeah. Pittman was the last one.
Yeah.
And guess where I learned that?
Where?
James Adams of the Fan.
James Adams. Shout out to James V's producer.
Yeah, he did a story on it last year. Michael Pittman Jr., Pat McAfee, and then can you name the person before Pat?
For Pat. Peyton?
There's a player in between. Between Peyton and Pat.
Oh, man. Freeney?
He was before Peyton.
Before Peyton?
So, yeah, it was Freeney 1 year, then Peyton, and then this player, and then Pat.
Reggie Wayne.
Robert Mathis.
Really? Mathis got the tag. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, what else we got?
Number 4 would be, what does the future of Anthony Richardson look like? And is it with the Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, again, does he have a future here in Indy? My guess is no. The $10.8 million cap hit for 2026, I don't think it can be ignored. And, I thought Riley Leonard showed you some stuff late in the year that makes you think, okay, is there a little bit more to work with? And, again, his contract's, 10 times cheaper than it is Richardson. But, my question would be this, Eddie. Can you net a 4th-round pick for him? And would you sign up for that today?
A 4th? Yeah, probably.
Did you watch the Terry Pagula Bills press conference?
The Keon Coleman comment?
Yeah. The Bills owner.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of wild. I ended up watching all of it because it was so captivating. And it was interesting. Brandon Beane was hired in the same year as Chris Ballard as GM, both of them in 2017. And, I think when you evaluate GMs, and I mentioned we'll get into the evaluation on Ballard here on a future podcast, but I do this each year. I think largely when you evaluate GMs, you have 2 rules of thought. You're evaluating them, A, on their overall team results, the black and whites of the record and the playoff wins and division titles, et cetera, et cetera. But then you're also evaluating them on draft success.
Yep.
And, obviously there's some marrying of both of those. But, a lot of people have said, well, if you're going to fire Sean McDermott, why are you keeping Brandon Beane? If I'm not mistaken, they promoted Brandon Beane.
Even worse, yeah.
And when Terry Pagula was kind of going through his reasoning, he called it a Houdini act in drafting Josh Allen. And when you think back to that 2018 draft, the Bills started, if I'm not mistaken, at pick number 21, traded up twice. I think they traded Cordy Glenn to move up to 12 initially, and then they got all the way up to 7, right behind the Colts, ironically, with Quentin Nelson, and they took Josh Allen ahead of Josh Rosen. So, it kind of got me thinking of like, when we're evaluating GMs, like when we've talked about Ballard, Eddie, I don't know if many people have brought up Richardson at all, or very little, I should say. Like when we bring up Ballard, what is usually mentioned is 0-1-2. 0 division titles, 1 playoff win, 2 playoff appearances.
Mm-hmm.
What's not brought up, or at least not as frequently, is you just said to me, Eddie, you would say yes to an Anthony Richardson trade for a 4th-round pick tomorrow.
Yep.
So that means you got 3 years out of your 4th overall pick. He went 8-7 as a starting quarterback, and you're going to get the 115th pick for him.
Yeah.
Like, that is an outright bust, failure, bless you. Like, I don't know how else you want to describe it. And like Brandon Beane's resume, he obviously has enough to keep his job based off wins, losses, playoff appearances.
I still push back on that because, like, look at that division though. For most of the Josh Allen era, it's been excuse my French, shit.
Well, they have won a playoff game in 6 straight years, and I believe there's only 4 NFL teams that have done that. So, I don't want to lose sight. I mean, boy,
it also helps when you have the alien at quarterback.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That's what Terry Pagula is saying. He drafted an alien. He Houdini'd as well. And it's not like they had the 1st overall pick. They entered that draft at 21 overall.
Yeah.
And they got Josh freaking Allen. And that's why I kind of come back to this with Ballard. It's like, should we be paying more attention to Richardson? I mean, you sat there with the 4th overall pick, and that guy is going to potentially go down as one of the biggest busts in NFL history. And the resume is 0-1-2, whereas Brandon Beane, people are questioning him, and he's got, I don't even know what 0-1-2 would be for him. It's probably like 5, 6, and 7 or something like that. And he also, obviously, Josh Allen's a big reason why. So I don't know. It's just like it's the part of the Ballard resume that we aren't really bringing up. Like the 4th overall pick turned into a 4th round pick. That's not ideal by any means.
No.
So, yeah.
No. I think the stat is that Beane has only drafted 2 Pro Bowlers. I think that's what the number is.
It just goes to show you how much quarterback can cover it all up, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Number 5, what will the defensive line look like? We already talked about kind of just like Kwity Paye, has struggled throughout the majority of his career, hasn't really taken off into the aspect of, what the Colts were hoping when they selected him. And there's a lot of players already that are available because of their contracts being up. And Chris Ballard, when he's saying he wants to get younger on the defensive side and faster. So what does the defensive line look like next year, KB?
Right. I mean, outside of Latu, I don't know if there's like a slam dunk lock. I mean, I think Buckner and Grover are there, but still, given their age, given Buckner's neck situation, it's just not as write their name in Sharpie for, 70% of the snaps like maybe you have in years past. So, again, a starting defensive end opposite Latu, I think, is a must. And you bring up Kwity Paye. He's a free agent. Samson Ebicom's a free agent, and Tyquan Lewis. So those are what? Are those 3 of your top 4 defensive end snap guys?
Yeah.
Tuimoloau would be. Did Tuimoloau really have no sacks this year?
Felt like he was hardly playing, though.
Yeah, he was definitely a healthy scratch early on, but I thought he dressed and played in like pretty much after September. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I thought he was like a healthy scratch like the first 4 or 5 games and then played in the others after that. So again, what does defensive line look like for you in general? And, Neville Gallimore is a free agent, even like those types of things. Yeah. Latu was your most snap. Then Paye was right behind him.
Yeah. JT Tuimoloau only had 215 snaps
And you go to Ebicom and Lewis.
Ebicom 415. That's about 36%. Tyquan Lewis 323 for 28%.
Yeah, so you are very low on snap counts if you let those 3 defensive ends walk, which again, I can totally hear you out on why you would. It's just you obviously will need to commit to some things.
Is Adetomo Adebawore another one of those free agents?
No, I think he's still on that rookie deal. I think he's still got one more year left, which, he really had a nice year. I thought he played pretty good football as a rotational defensive tackle for you.
Yeah. And we talk about guys oftentimes of when they're free agents with the Colts and how they do when they're retained on that second contract. But looking back on it, I know he got injured, but the fact that they didn't make a big splash to bring Dio Odingbo back was a smart move by Chris Ballard when you look at it now.
Yeah, I was probably always a little bit more bring Dio back than Quiddy. Yeah, I would say right now neither of them have played up to their draft pick. I'd probably say Quiddy's been certainly more the pass rush disappointment. Dio's probably a little bit more of an interior player there, but yeah, Quiddy's numbers from this year were just awful. Several guys had great contract years. Pierce, Cross, Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Quiddy had an awful one, especially from a pass rush standpoint.
Yeah.
He played every game. I think he was like 80-something in sacks, 120 in tackles for loss or something, but then just very poor.
Yes, this upcoming year would be the last year of Adetomo Adebawore's contract. So the final question that you've got on the website for the 6 offseason questions facing the Colts 2026 outlook. Are there staff changes coming? Of course, this is probably tied to the 2 coordinators. Although it seems pretty likely that Lou Anarumo will be back at this point.
Well, he did interview in Buffalo.
He did.
We should mention that. Buffalo's still open.
Yeah.
As we record this. Yeah, Jim Bob Cooter in Philly. Philly's still open as we record this. So we'll wait that. We definitely know they'll make a change at defensive line. Charlie Partridge back to the college ranks there. So, yeah, again, there's no commitment to staff changes. Last year at this point, Anarumo was probably already hired by this point. So they had clearly made a commitment to staff changes there. But that would be the last question. And really their offensive staff has been intact throughout. And really, they have had minimal staff changes. Obviously, Gus Bradley was notable, but, they haven't really done a whole lot from a staff standpoint here. So we'll kind of wait Anarumo and Jim Bob Cooter, but outside of that, it doesn't look like much more than that.
What do you think of this whole Philly situation?
Just with their OC and Jim Bob Cooter potentially?
Well, just in general. Apparently, Charlie Weiss Jr. has been offered the job. He said no thanks. I've had a couple other guys say no thanks. What do you think's going on there?
Yeah, that's a good question because there's part of me that thinks, boy, they don't need much, and if they make it to a Super Bowl, is someone just gonna, Shane Steichen it or, go get a head coaching gig? Yeah, I get there's some toxicity if that's a word, and I don't know, maybe maybe the Hurts element to it, or I don't know, the AJ Brown element to it, but boy, it seems to me it would still be relatively attractive. I get Mike McDaniel wanting to be with Justin Herbert. I can, kind of understand that. I don't know. Is there a Sirianni's on the offensive side of the ball? I don't necessarily love that aspect to it. Maybe, but I don't. Yeah. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, me either. Can you name the top 5 players that on the defensive side in snaps this year?
Top 5 defensive players in snaps.
Yep.
In no certain order: Bynum, Cross, Franklin.
That's 1, 2, and 3.
Kenny Moore, Jermaine Pratt pop into my head next.
Nope. Kenny Moore is 7. Jermaine Pratt is 8.
Really? Latu?
Latu is 5.
Not Quiddy.
He was 6.
God, is it Mekhi Blackman?
It is.
Really? How many did he have? 800 something? 900 something?
783.
783. Wow. Boy, you talk about a trivia question you could stump some people on.
67% of the snaps, yeah.
Unbelievable.
You ready for Twitter questions?
Yes, let's do them.
We've got 3 of them, starting with Jacob. states, I honestly was shocked at how good Riley Leonard looked. It leads to the question, is it smarter to save money and run with him next season instead of paying Daniel Jones a ton of money when we aren't even sure if he's going to be back to his good self again? Thanks.
Ooh. Leonard over Jones. Don't call me the Notre Dame fan, Eddie Garrison. How about that? Did you have that on your bingo card today?
Nope.
Your thoughts? I'm not prepared to answer.
I would say not yet. I'm not ready to go there.
Yeah, I'd probably try to keep Jones in the 2-year range contractually, and then does that allow you to maybe give Leonard a further chance down the road? Obviously, unfortunate thing with Jones is, given his injury situation, you might need Leonard again, for some sort of period of time. Again, I understand where Jacob's coming from, but I think Jones, I understand why the Colts are going to try and bring Jones back, especially without the first round pick aspect to it. Eddie, was interesting. We asked a question on our morning show today. If you could spend a notable, I'm giving you the chance to spend one notable resource on offense. So notable resource to me is double-digit $1 million contract or second or third round pick. You can spend that on one position on offense this offseason. What position would that be?
And is this, you said it can be a contract, it could be a draft pick or whatever?
Yeah, it can be whatever. $12 million contract annually. It could be a second or third round pick, one position.
Probably wide receiver.
Yeah, I think James said wide out. I said maybe offensive line. Mark Dykton said quarterback in round 3.
I thought about that too.
And I think it's interesting. Certainly if the regime would have changed, I would have definitely said quarterback. But I do say that, has Riley Leonard grown to be the new developmental quarterback? Has he earned that right? Like, instead of calling him a 6th rounder, do you now call him like a 4th rounder?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I know it's a little vague, but you're like, okay, maybe, when I dream at night, it's Dak Prescott. Wasn't he a 4th rounder?
Yes.
But, it could also be Jacob Eason. It's like, so, has he earned the right to be viewed more in the developmental? And again, with Leonard, he needed, and I did a poor job on this, at Notre Dame, he didn't have a spring practice due to injury. So, this year he might take every starting rep in the spring. I mean, how valuable is that?
Yeah, no kidding.
To him. So, I again, Jacob, I get where you're coming from. I would say no. I mean, you have the money to spend. I think you give Jones a chance on kind of the 2-year window, and you move on from there. But it is a very interesting thought.
Yeah. And then you have to think about this too. Like, going into the year, we thought this would be a pretty nice quarterback class. And then the college football season happened, and
oh boy,
almost everybody regressed in some way, shape, or form. And so,
do we get a second quarterback in round 1?
I don't think so. If we do, is it Trinidad Chambliss?
Gosh, and I feel like that's drama, right? Isn't that still kind of like, where are we at with that?
I'm not sure, but you're looking at obviously Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck, Kate Klubnik, Diego Pavia, Trinidad Chambliss.
Man.
Is Drew Aller in the draft?
Pavia, 5'9"?
Yes. Taylon Green, Miller Moss, Jalen Daniels, Sawyer Robertson. That's your list of quarterbacks this year.
Jeez, man, you're naming a lot of quarterbacks here.
Right.
All right, what do we got next?
2 questions. Isaac, I know we had key injuries, but Lou Anarumo's defense was horrible the last month. Is it too soon to consider moving on?
I think it's largely personnel, man. Yeah, I think it's personnel over scheme. I think, at the end of the day, if you want to compare the Gus Bradley scheme to the Lou Anarumo scheme, my general, again, when you walk into an NFL job, I feel like if you are a GM, if you are a whatever builder of the franchise, you have to have kind of 8 to 10 core philosophies. And, I feel like I've dropped some of those that I'm a believer in here. I believe that the best way to try and win is to draft that quarterback and build through that rookie contract. I'm not a big fan of taking a running back on day 1 or day 2. of the draft. By the way, running back's kind of a sneaky position too.
Maybe.
We did debate that a little. I don't think you're there with Taylor, but you never know when Father Time's gonna hit you like this chilly air here in Indy. Those are some of the thought processes. As far as defense, I think you need to be a scheme that is a little bit more of a exotic, innovative scheme. And I get that there's some risk reward with that, and there might be some cons to it. But I think with how successful and how much the whistle favors offenses in today's NFL, I think that's a really key ingredient. So, not to mention, Isaac, you're talking what, your third system in 3 years? So
yeah, you'd be paying a third different coordinator, right?
Right. I mean, would you? I don't think you're moving on from Lou, are you?
I don't think so. I mean, did you give him enough to work with for his system? Like, did you give him the right players that he wants for his scheme?
Right. And again, some of the personnel decisions were on Lou. I get that, but I still think a lot of it's at Ballard. We've talked about this before. What, outside of Bobby Okereke, it's like we don't see any of these guys drafted defensively not work out here and then work out other places. And Bobby obviously reached a pretty good level here, but still, I would not be. I think this is the right approach systematically. Now it's, again, can you find some personnel?
Boy, do you go back in time and wish that that was more Okereke versus Shaq, right? Versus Okereke versus Zaire.
Oh gosh, you could do a whole project one day on linebackers passing the torch. Anthony Walker. I mean, in 3 straight drafts, it was Walker, Leonard, Bobby, and Zaire was in that 2018 draft too, with Shaq. And then obviously you had Speed in 20, 21?
Yeah.
No, Speed was 19. Speed was also Bobby's draft. Man, they drafted a lot of linebackers there. Hell, they drafted Matt Adams too. Remember that name?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I'd have to talk to me in July about that project.
The final question is from Jake. Aside from Fernando Mendoza, what 3 players from Indiana University would you draft to fit the Colts draft needs? And while you gather yourself over there, Kevin, can I go with Omar Cooper Jr., who just entered himself into the draft yesterday?
Yeah.
D'Angelo Pons as another. And then that third one is the one that kind of stumped on.
Yeah, boy. Cooper and Pons, man. I obviously Mendoza deserves all the hype that he gets and all that, but Cooper and Pons were so good. So good. I mean, listen to Brian Haynes, the defensive coordinator, Eddie, and he talked about, Pons just literally took away half the field.
Yeah.
And he missed a game this year. I don't know if people recall this. He missed the Iowa game. They almost lost. Frankly, he probably should have lost.
Yeah.
If Iowa's starting quarterback doesn't get hurt late in that game. And, again, you didn't have Pons, and I get his size, but man, his instincts are just through the roof. What about Aiden Fisher? Round 5 or 6?
Oh, yeah, good call. I don't know why I didn't think about him. Yeah. I like
Cooper versus Surratt, the 2 main wideouts, I think is an interesting debate. Cooper, I've said kind of some baby Deebo Samuel vibes to him.
Yes, yeah.
Surratt, kind of the baby Michael Pittman Jr. So again, it's what you want. I remember a few off seasons ago, you and I wideout, or I think pass catcher was the big need, and I kept on saying, I don't care how you find it, the trait needs to be after the catch.
Yep.
And again, they come in all different shapes and sizes. After the catch guys can be just tall dudes that make plays after the catch. They can be speed guys. They can be more of the, running back. You watch Cooper and you think running back. I'm like, can you show me him as a running back at Lawrence North? Because I feel like he's got that in his background. Hell, just look at the national title game. I remember they got in a 1st and 20 early in that game, found Cooper on a crosser, and boom, he does the rest after the catch here. So
he's got really good body control and balance.
Yeah. Hell, I might take one of those running backs on day 3. I mean, I guess you got DJ Giddens, but Kalen Black's a Senior Bowl guy, is he not?
I'd have to look. When I watched the IU running backs, I didn't necessarily get NFL caliber.
Yeah, again, I say day 3. I'm not saying anything too early on that.
They just don't look like they just don't have the burst to me as an NFL back does.
They run hard. Boy, Cooper. I mean, you go back to that Penn State play.
In high school, he had 18 carries, 174 yards, and no touchdowns.
Did you see the Michigan highlight catch he made going around the internet yesterday?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen that?
Shout out Dane Brugler for bringing that one back.
Was it Brugler who brought it back?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we had Brugler on in November. We actually played that clip on our show. We asked him about Cooper, and he said definitely is cracked into top 100. And that was before Penn State, before the playoff run. The Michigan play, he literally catches it on the sideline doing a backflip.
Yeah.
And the first body part that lands is his head.
Yeah.
Does head equal 2 feet?
Yeah. I don't know.
Don't we always get into that debate of like, wrist or elbow equals 2 feet or something like that? I'm like, gosh, that is too funny for me. So, yeah, Cooper's great, man. And I think he's probably a round or two earlier than Surratt. But yeah, Fisher, is there, I know people use he's the white linebacker from IU. Let's Mike McFadden him up. Mike McFadden's found a nice role with the Giants.
Yeah. Ironically, next to Bobby Okereke.
Right, exactly. They're glowing in their praise down there, Bryant Haynes, of what Fisher does from a green dot standpoint. So, again, linebacker, I'm very curious with the Colts.
He's very instinctual.
Super. And linebacker with the Colts. Franklin's got an out. He's got some big cap hits coming up. He's 30, right? Or 29, something like that. Jermaine Pratt's a free agent. He's also similar age. The depth there is, So, how they handle linebacker, Ballard obviously is drafted extraordinarily well. But again, Latu, continuing to play, Lou continuing to play guys that are, younger remains a definite question mark.
What do you got Super Bowl wise? I know it's early. We still have we can do this next week for predictions, or you can do it now for your initial, then next week we can do it again. How you want to do this?
Yeah, let's say I'll probably cop out. I'm probably a little bit more on New England than most.
Really?
Yeah, I not that I'm rooting for them, I guess let me make that clear, but they played in freaking horrific weather in these playoffs.
It was backup quarterback though.
Against some great defenses. Well, I'm talking, there's more to them offensively than they showed.
I agree.
Let's not act like Drake May was an MVP candidate all season long. So, and I think Diggs has turned back the clock in some moments. The guy that makes big catches for him is Matt Collins.
Yep.
And boy, he is a unique individual. He makes some big catches, and I don't know. I just don't think this is a hand it to Seattle and move on with everything. Because what's the line? Is it climb to 5? Hell, is it north of that? What did it open
You're
at?
more of a degenerate than I am. I hadn't even looked at that line yet.
I think it opened at 4.5.
It is still 4.5 on the book I'm looking at.
Still 4.5?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
I wish they had a prop on there on over-under on when the kickoff will happen.
I saw a prop of will Seattle throw the ball from the 1 yard line, from the opponent's 1 yard line, a la Russell Wilson, Malcolm Butler. And it was like plus 320, plus 350. I'm like, hell yeah, they're going to throw it from the 1 yard line, right? It's not just a given you run it from the 1. I also saw I might sprinkle Rashid Shaheed for Super Bowl MVP.
Really?
If he makes one special teams play.
Makes a special teams play and then a touchdown catch or something?
Yeah, hell, he had the big catch early on in that game on Sunday. Those are two great games. The Rams game was such a great game, and we didn't even have scoring in the fourth quarter. But that was such a great game.
Yeah.
I love watching Stafford operate, and I was really hoping that Nakua got out of bounds there to get one more shot at it. But that was a hell of a play.
So close, man.
Witherspoon made on fourth and goal there. All right, he's Eddie Garrison. I'm Kevin Bowen. I guess we'll give official picks coming up next week. Everybody have a great week. Stay warm. Stay safe. Love you.